Hi, I'm Catherine.
Hi, I'm Andrea Turner, and this is our file system project.
First, we're going to show it passing all the tests. First, it's going to pass the unit test. Let me retype that. And now here it is passing the shell test. As you can see, it passes every test. Next, we're going to take a look at this code snippet. First, it calls open on a file. When we call open on a file, our file system will call fsmount. In fsmount, we call disk read. Disk read, then here, we'll do a sanity check just to perform the basic checks to make everything good. Then it will perform the system call lseek, which will then search to that specific block to make sure we're going to be reading from the correct location. Then it calls the system call read, which will then read from the disk to the data. And then we'll return the amount that we read, which should be block size.
Next, we're going to go through this read in the while loop. So every time read is called, it will call fsread. So as you can see, fsread first calls fsload inode, which also calls the disk read, which we explained earlier. Next, our code will go through and all of the direct and indirect pointers. So as you can see in this diagram, in read, it will go through first the direct pointers, which each points to a data block, and then we'll go through the indirect pointers. And to do this, we have to use the indirect block, which contains all of the indirect pointers to the data blocks. So by going through the direct pointers and the indirect pointers, we're able to read from all of the data blocks. Next, we'll perform a memcopy system call. So in doing this, we read from the data blocks and copy it into a buffer.
Then after that, the code snippet calls close on the file. When it closes called, what our code does is it performs an unmount, fs unmount. Looking here, essentially what unmount does is it frees the disk that we're pointing, it sets it to null, and it also frees our free blocks, which was just our array of Boolean values for which blocks are free, and also sets it equal to null. And that's essentially what this code is doing in regards to our system call.
So we don't have any errata quirks or unresolved issues in our code. So by doing this project, we both learned a lot about understanding a simple file system. I think the most important things we learned were how to utilize direct and indirect pointers to access data blocks. And we also learned the relationship between the superblock, the inode block, and then all of the data blocks. We learned the importance of keeping an inode block to keep track of all of the various inodes.
I also think it was super valuable in FS-Write. We were able to learn what happens when you have to allocate a new block and that they're not always in order. So when you allocate one, how do you do that? Which ones are free? And then how do you go about allocating the indirect block and making sure you clear out all your data? Thank you.